Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Timeout with Derek and Joe. For Joe Aslina, I am Derek Cano. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. And once again, we welcome back Phil Engel, who way back when was our first guest, and here he comes again talking some more baseball. Phil, as always, it is wonderful to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on. Talk some baseball. This is my third time, so yeah, it's always fun. So yeah.
And today, episode 51, we are jumping into what is currently happening in the world of baseball. Now that we are a little over, I believe, 60 games, most teams have played 63, 65. What's happening in the world of baseball? And then at the very end, we're going to talk about the current baseball foreign substance issue and our thoughts on that has been very prevalent in the news as of late. But without further ado, we're going to jump right into it with our first topic, which is the biggest surprises in terms of positive. We're thinking, and then we're going to be doing biggest disappointments. But biggest surprises in terms of positive, we each wrote down some teams. We're each going to dive in and talk about them. My first biggest surprise, when we talked, we were the three that talked in the NL or the AL East, and I actually decently liked the Red Sox. Not this much. I won't give myself that much credit. But I have the Red Sox down. They are currently second in the East. They are 39 and 27. Why are they so high? Well, it's definitely offense. They're fourth in average right now. They're fifth in runs. That's out of all 30 teams. They are third in hits. However, they are 17th in ERA. They are seventh in strikeouts, which is pretty good, actually, when you consider their rotation. Starters are 20th in ERA, and then the relievers is actually doing pretty well. They're 10th in the league. Other reasons, well, Xander Bogaerts, as per usual, hitting 325. He is currently on pace for 100 RBIs. Rafael Devers is on pace for 40 home runs and 120 RBIs. JD Martinez is playing well. And by the way, I thought it was very interesting that they've only used 6 starters this year. They've brought out that same rotation. Eovaldi, Eduardo Rodriguez is struggling, but Martin Perez. But when Eduardo starts pitching better, Chris Sale is on his way back. He actually threw off a mound as of 2 days ago. So my first one, the Red Sox, I'm very surprised so far with them. Phil, do you want to jump in to talk about the Red Sox real quick?
Yeah, I think everyone kind of thought the Red Sox would have a bounce back year from last season. I don't think anyone really envisioned like they would be this good. And I think bringing back Alex Cora has definitely made a big difference in that in that club. But yeah, yes. And I think I think last year, I think it was like their offense was really down last year, but like they've all come around. You mentioned Devers, like he's having a really solid season. Bogaerts too, and I think JD Martinez has really bounced back too, which has really boosted that offense. So, yeah, Joe, how about you? What do you think about this team?
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm pleasantly surprised at how consistent they've been. I think that's the word. I mean, you look at it; they're almost 10 games over 500 on the road. That's impressive. And Derek said, and Bogaerts will be joining us later in my end, but you got him and JD Martinez. Those guys are big boppers. They're gonna hit for average and power. The thing with me is, can Sale come back healthy? If he does, it's another shot in the arm for Boston. But the way New York's playing right now, guys, it's going to be Boston in the race. It's not going to be New York. It's going to be Boston and Tampa.
Wow. We'll see. We'll see.
These boys this year instead of 60. I'm pumped for the second half. But, yeah, I think Phil said it best, and Alex Cora, I agree with that. He's a very good manager. And maybe he was wrong with the whole cheating thing, but give him another chance, and he's showing that he's got a pretty good club in this team.
Yeah, and even like you mentioned, like Erod, once he starts pitching well, that's just going to be another ad because he's not this bad. He shouldn't be this bad for this stretch. So yeah, I think once they can start pitching, get that pitching back, especially with Sale on returning soon, I think they'll be right in that mix the whole way through. So
yeah, 6.03 ERA currently for Eduardo Rodriguez. That'll definitely go down. My second biggest surprise team will be the New York Mets. Okay, you might think the New York Mets, they were supposed to be at the top. Well, I think it's more because of all the players that are out right now, and they're still at the top of the division. I'll jump into a bunch of them soon. Currently 32-25, first in NL East. Number 2 in ERA, thanks to one Jacob deGrom, of course, who is absolutely amazing right now. But they are hitting .235 as a team. They are 28th in home runs. They are 30th last in hits, 30th in runs. DJ Peterson, one of their starters, has thrown 11 starts. He has a 6.32 ERA. Phil's boy Joey Lucchesi has 7 starts. He has a 5.18 ERA. Alonso is having a down year. He's only projected for about 26 homers, 82 RBIs, which is probably not what they need from him. Lindor is having a down year, obviously the first time coming over, but Conforto back in late June. McNeil started rehab assignment. Nimmo, they're looking at late June. Carlos Carrasco kind of fell backwards a little bit, so maybe mid-July, end of July. JD Davis back maybe mid-July. A lot of guys coming back, yet they're still in first place, Joe. So that's why I have them as a pleasant surprise. You would think maybe the Braves, maybe the Phillies would be jumping over them, but not quite yet.
That division has been so underwhelming. We said it in our preview show. We thought it could be the best division in baseball, and it's not even close. The Braves have been disappointing. Some of their players haven't hit. The Ozuna thing aside was sad, and for many reasons. The Phils, what can you say? They're getting hot. They're on a roll right now. We'll see what they can do on the West Coast. But honestly, the Mets, the guys they got in Lindor and McCann haven't produced. Francisco Lindor, right, Phil? I mean, I saw Phil shake his head. Yeah. Like, it's so true, right? It's just that simple. These guys haven't produced, but the pitching has done pretty well, led by Mr. I want to call him Mr. Everything, and Jacob deGrom.
Very guy true.
He might not be human, guys. He's that good. My dad always says to me, look at his ERA. It goes down every time he pitches. It's unbelievable. But anyway, no, Phil, I loved your head nod there. What do you say about them? What about the Mets?
Derek kind of mentioned, like, they're doing all this without like a full lineup. They haven't had a full lineup, I don't think, since like early April. And then Lindor, he's been better recently, but he's still not the Lindor of old.
Right.
And then I don't even think you guys have mentioned like 2 really big surprises so far this year for them. Jacob deGrom has been amazing, but it's also been Marcus Stroman, who's been really, really good this year. And even Taijuan Walker finally looks like he's actually having a solid campaign. I think Derek has seen more poor seasons out of him than anyone, but he seems like he's having a really, really, really strong campaign with the Mets. So, when you have those 3 at the top of the rotation, and then, you got some guys coming back, Syndergaard was close, then he had a setback, but Carrasco could be back in a month, and then if those 3 continue to pitch well, I think the Mets can stay at the top for a while, especially if the rest of the divisions are going to perform as poorly as they have so far. So.
Guys like Villar and Pilar are 2 names that we didn't think would be integral parts, but because of Nimmo being hurt, Pilar's played a lot of the the outfield, and Villar's played second and center. So those guys have been role guys, but they've actually stepped up the role, if you will. And I think that's important for a team that's leading the division. And, it's going to be interesting to see I'm telling you, somebody to win that division might only have to win like 87 games. It might not have to be 90.
Yeah.
So, Phil, let's move on to you. You're up next. Biggest surprises in terms of positive teams.
Yeah. So, I have two teams. They're both, division leaders right now. I think one, people kind of expected we're going to be like this, but my first team, I don't think anyone expected this, and that's the San Francisco Giants. I think when we were doing our, division previews and stuff, I don't think you guys even had the Giants even close to where they are now. It was always Dodgers, Padres at the top, but now the Giants, 40-25, best record in the National League. They have a plus 69 run differential, which is like among the team, best in the among the majors. And then I think they're like the fourth team in MLB to have 40 wins. So, I think no one expected this. I think a lot of it comes down to the pitching too. I think, Kevin Gausman, if it wasn't for Jacob deGrom, I think Kevin Gausman would be like the odds-on favorite to win the NL Cy Young right now. 7-1. He's got a sub 1.5 ERA. And not just Gausman, but like behind him. When you have the top three of your pitchers, Kevin Gausman, Anthony DeSclafani, and Alex Wood, to do it while they're doing is incredible. So I don't know if you guys want to talk about
Gausman, DeSclafani, Alex Wood, Johnny Cueto, Aaron Sanchez are five of the people who have.
And they had Scott Kazmir throw a couple innings.
Yes.
So it's just
yes, he did.
So I think the Giants are bringing back some of that magic from the earlier in this decade. So. But yeah, I don't know if either of you want to jump in here and just talk about their offense, because just as well as their pitching has been doing, I think their offense is just as good. So.
Well, I know the first thing on my mind is that if Gabe Kapler, San Francisco Giants, somehow either win the series this weekend or sweep the Phillies, I'm never going to hear the end of it from my younger brother. That's number one. Number two, yes, Gausman has been incredible. He has been, every time you look, because I never can watch the games. They're never on TV, to be honest, out around us. But I will say this. That's a guy that pitched for Atlanta a couple years ago, guys. And Phil, you probably remember, he was okay. He wasn't anybody that was going to set the world on fire.
The Braves cut him. So, he was doing – so, just to show you how far he's come.
And DeSclafani, another name, a former Red. I know Caleb caught him. Now the Phil's pitching coach, he had a hard time with him in Cincinnati. Didn't sound like he wanted to work on different things. He's a younger pitcher. But these guys are seeming to buy what Kapler is saying. I keep saying I want to see it in the second half. I understand how good they've played. They've been okay with injuries. Longoria went down because I picked him on my fantasy team, and then I dropped him right away because he went down with a big injury. But they got guys like Dickerson, and I think it's Alex Dickerson, Mike Yastrzemski, but Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford, Buster Posey, they're your leaders. If those guys go, they're going to go. Posey's having a pretty good year. But very no, Phil, year. This isn't it. No, this is like turn back the clock, Buster Posey, right?
Yeah, Posey looked, done like 2 years ago, and now look at him. He's one of the best. He's back to being one of the best catchers in the league. So. And then when you have Longoria having a renaissance year, he was until, suffered that separated shoulder. But even Brandon Crawford, Brandon Crawford hasn't been doing much lately in the last couple of years. Now he leads the team in home runs. And then they have, some other guys, lesser known guys like, Dubon, Slater, Wilmer Flores is even having a really superb year. And then not even to mention, like, they just plug and play guys like Lamont Wade right now is like the next one. He's getting a lot of playing time and he's just producing. So
yeah, it's amazing. And you know what? Good, happy for Giants fans. I'm still rooting against them, but Derek knows. Talk about it all the time.
Well, I'm eating crow a little bit because I remember saying they got Brandon Crawford at short, who is too old to play shortstop anymore. They got Buster Posey at catcher, who's too old to play catcher. They got Longoria at third, too old to play there. But At least
guess what?
I had a middle of the division. I won't say where Joe had them, but I'll tell you it's less than 4. So we'll move on to your next one, Phil.
Yeah, and then my next one, just as well the Giants are playing, so is this team. But I think a lot more people expected this, and that's the Chicago White Sox. I think what is a little bit surprising is where this team, all the headlines surrounding the team back in April or in May, have now kind of subsided. Tony La Russa and stuff. I think winning cures a lot of that. But yeah, 41-24, second best record in baseball. They have the best run differential in baseball at 106. And yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with their pitching. I mean, they have 5 guys that, 5 deep. Not many teams can say that. I mean, their 2 big acquisitions in the offseason have been tremendous. Lance Lynn has really been that stopper, that stud in the rotation. Liam Hendricks in the back of the bullpen. I mean, he's been lights out. We always knew that was going to happen. But besides Lynn, I think it's Carlos Rodon. Carlos Rodon and Dylan Cease. 2 guys that have always had that high prospect pedigree. They're finally turning it around. I mean, and then last year's stud Lucas Giolito. I mean, he's their 4th best pitcher right now, which is saying a lot. And then, when you have Dallas Keuchel as your 5th, I mean, pitching really well too. So. And I didn't even touch on a couple of the their offensive guys. I mean, Mercedes coming out of nowhere to perform, and then you got Yohan Moncada really bouncing back after kind of lost season last year because of COVID. And then they're not even at full strength because Eloy Jimenez is coming back soon. Luis Roberts still hurt. So but Derek, what do you guys what do you think about the White Sox?
Yeah, you touched on it. They're missing big parts of that lineup already, and they're still playing very well. Nick Madrigal hitting 305. I'm sure they've been waiting for that to happen.
It's going to be a tough blow, though. He just went down, so he's going to miss a couple.
Yes. Very good bullpen. A couple of those guys are not pitching the best right now, so I'm sure they'll be able to turn it around a little bit. Like Evan Marshall and Aaron Bummer, they're upwards of 4 and 5 ERAs. I'm sure that'll come back down. But they're leading the division pretty handily right now. So even with the bullpen not playing very well, and then they have people like Michael Kepich. Potentially, he can't even get a spot in the rotation right now because everyone's pitching so well. I mean, Keuchel is just going to be there regardless. But
when you can throw guys like Kopech and Garrett Crochet in the bullpen, guys that were supposed to be starters for them, but now they're like multi-inning guys. Kopech's on the shelf right now. He's a little banged up, but when you got those guys pitching in the bullpen, I mean, it really goes a long way.
So, Joe, let's jump over to you. Who do you have as your biggest surprises in terms of teams and positive?
Well, I have the Chicago Cubs because I remember beginning of the season, I said, holy my Lanta, what is happening with Chicago? Me and Derek went back and forth about what are they doing. But when you got guys like Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, and Javier Baez, just to name 3, you got to sit there and say, okay, you traded Darvish. I think Davies left. They had Hendricks still there. But, you still weren't sure what they were doing. And, again, they're 10 games over 500. They're winning a lot of games at Wrigley Field. If those 3 guys and Contreras, if those 4, that's a pretty good 4. If those 4 really can play the rest of the season well, we might see a possible more of a surprise than we thought. I don't know how good the Cardinals are going to end up, but it could be a 2 to 3 horse race still. But I still think the Cubs could be in it in the end. Guys, what do you think about Chicago?
Well, I wonder how long it's going to keep up. It's real, but teams with good bullpens always are going to stay in it, and their bullpen is definitely what's keeping them going.
Yes.
Their lowest, they don't have a starting ERA below 4, whereas you look at Ryan Tepera, 1.99 ERA, Andrew Chafin, 1.91, Craig Kimbrell, having an amazing season. 0.66 ERA.
He's back to old Craig too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
that's
amazing
unbelievable.
bullpen.
Yeah, they're going to need starting pitching though, because
yes,
they have to get that. And when I talked about those 4 players, Bryant, Rizzo, Baez, and Contreras, those guys are all. I read an article today. They're all right in it for the All-Star game, and I'm not talking just fan voting. I'm talking about manager Dave Roberts saying these guys should be there. Guys, they're a team to be reckoned with, and I think the Central fans are gonna find that out in the second half of the season. The Cubbies aren't going anywhere. So, well, my other team is the Houston Astros, and I thought about this. I was the one saying the loss of George Springer was going to hurt them. Well, their offense has been pretty good. They're winning games at home. And you got guys like Michael Brantley, who Derek knows I endorse him quite much on this show.
Yes.
Alex Bregman and Jose Altuve, and not to mention Carlos Correa, who's a free agent at the end of the year. If this offense with Yordan Alvarez keeps going the way they're going, George Springer's an afterthought in this lineup. This is a really good team with Kyle Tucker. So that's why I went with Houston here. And I like Greinke. So, Phil, I don't know if you caught it. Me and Derek did a Padres Astros broadcast. Very fun and a very interesting game.
Sure.
But, yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, the Astros, I mean, everyone thought, how would fans being back affect them, dealing with the cheating allegations, still hanging over their head at the start of the year. But, I mean, they've responded in their typical way, just kind of just going about their business, just playing really good baseball. But, to go off that, I think a couple of big surprises, at least one big surprise is that Luis Garcia kid. I mean, he's been a sensation in the rotation, kind of taking over for spots, because they're missing some dudes. Jake Odorizzi, they picked him up late, but he hasn't really been anything. But yeah, I mean, I think that offense is just back clicking again, and they're really not missing any beat.
Yeah, I can't say I'm amazingly surprised by how well their offense is doing. That's really no shot there, but yeah, with the rotation, they've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different starting pitchers this year. Valdez got hurt. You mentioned Odorizzi. So once I know McCullers is coming back tomorrow, so he'll be back in the rotation. They have a lot of options, and they're pretty well set moving forward.
Yeah.
Joe, stick with you. We are now moving to the biggest surprises in terms of positive for players. Do you want to start us off?
Yeah, Derek, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself because my second guy, well, I'll go with my first guy. My second guy I want to change because you kind of called me out earlier about it, that he wasn't having a good year for the Mets, but we'll leave it there and I'll go to my first guy. My first guy is on the Boston Red Sox, and that's their shortstop, Xander Bogaerts. And this was easy for me. I saw him play against the Phillies early in the year. I was very impressed with what he was doing. He makes that team go, guys. He's right in the middle of everything. He plays defense very well, strong arm. He's just got the intangibles you need to have as a leader, and he's a heck of a baseball player.
Is that surprising though, Joe? He's been one of the best players in baseball for a while here.
I don't look at him though as you're saying, like maybe at his position, but I don't look at him overall to be, because remember we did the outfield show and we saw those guys and how dominant they are. I mean, maybe I'm shortchanging him when I think about him on a regular basis, but just looking up stuff for the show, I had a hard time not putting him on here. But that's fair. Phil, what do you think about Xander Bogaerts before I go through his stats?
I mean, yeah. I mean, like I said, he's really having a good year, just for the Red Sox. I mean, when you have him right in that middle of the order, I mean, it makes a huge difference. I mean, I think he's just having a really typical Xander Bogaerts season. I mean,
consistent, right? Just real consistent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's hitting 324. And he also scores a lot of runs. He scored 37 runs already this season. And he doubles. He has almost 20 doubles, and he's knocked in 38 runs. So Xander Bogaerts, to me, definitely what's with JD Martinez is definitely a great 1-2 punch endeavors. And man alive, I kind of wish Mookie Betts was back with Boston just because I would have loved to see him all together again. But unfortunately, that's not the way it goes. So I can only wish for that. My second guy, and I did laugh earlier, like I said to Derek, maybe not having his kind of year, but I still think that he deserves to be talked about. That's Pete Alonso. The reason I put him on here was his average is about average. It's about 260. He does have 10 home runs. I think the home runs are low. I think that's the one thing you look at him, and the guy hit 50 one year, so that's amazing. And now he's right now 40 shy of that, so he's not going to get close to 50. But he's got 31 RBIs in a lineup that we've said it's been banged up throughout the year, guys. They've had 17 guys on the IL. That's crazy. His on base percentage is 345. It's not, it's pretty good. And he got 30 runs scored. But I should have put my boy Gene Segura on there because he's having a heck of a run right now. Former Mariner, Dave. Former Mariner.
Yeah. Sorry, Joe. Pete Alonso doesn't belong on this list. He's not a positive surprise. He's more of a disappointment, if anything. I don't think he's not a 50 home run guy. I think he's probably 30, 35 home run guy, but his numbers are still way lower than where they're supposed to be. So, Phil, do you want to give us your two guys in terms of positive biggest surprises, or three guys?
Yeah, I think two guys that I think have been kind of capturing like the MLB storylines for most part of the season. I think Shohei Ohtani is finally putting together the type of season I think I don't think anyone envisioned he would be this good, but he's having one hell of a season. We've never really seen anything like it before in baseball. So, a dude that can mash as well as he can, run as fast as he can, and then throw as hard as he can. It's just like, we're watching something like just uncommon. So I always enjoy watching him. He's like top 5 in home runs. He's got 17 already, 45 RBIs. He almost has 10 steals, and then he's sixth in the majors in OPS. And then, you add his pitching in. He throws 100. He's got 68 strikeouts in like 47, 48 innings. He's got a sub-3 ERA.
That's what I was going to say. It's not just the hitting stats. When we heard about him from Japan, people need to hear out there that this guy is not just a hitter. He's a pitcher. He's your modern-day Babe Ruth. Now, he's got to do it longer, but that's what Babe Ruth did. He pitched and he hit, and it's not usually done in the major leagues. It's hard to do. So we're seeing something that we never see, Phil. That was very good point.
Now, Phil, he even technically he was kind of endorsed as a pitcher who also hits, wasn't he? When he first came over, he wasn't, but he may be a better hitter than he is pitcher right now, more because of his injury.
He's definitely been carrying that Angels offense, especially with Trout, done for a couple months, and then, but no one expected him to be hitting 470-foot home runs the same days he's pitching. So, I think Joe Maddon's doing it right this year. Just letting him play. Don't baby him. Play. 3 days off day, and then just letting him go, and it's worked out really well for them. For my next guy, I think same thing. I think a couple years ago, he was the talk of the town, talking the league. Everyone thought he was going to be this stud, and then he just kind of didn't really put it together for a few years, and now we're really seeing it. And that's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's been amazing this year. He's the AL Triple Crown leader right now. This is the type of seasons everyone kind of thought he was going to do when he was mashing at AAA. 21 home runs, 55 RBIs, and it's not even, it's mid-June. He's got a 3.44 year batting average, and then he's leading the league in OPS, with an incredible over 1,100. So, I think, what else can you say about, Vlad right now?
Not too much. He's pretty dominant.
He reminds you a lot of his father. growing up in the 90s, watching Vlad Guerrero Sr., I guess we'd say, hit the ball, went wherever it was pitched. I mean, I'm talking a mile outside, and the guy crushed it to right field. This kid's got natural power. He's aggressive. He's just a heck of a ball player, and we're going to be talking about him for years to come. And I think he seems like he's not a showboater. He's not a Ronald Acuna Jr. Sorry, Phil, or Soto. Soto's on my nerves now too, a little bit with that. And I'm not taking away anything from Acuna's talent. He's a talented baseball player. I can just do without the showboating. But Guerrero is not that way. He's just kind of by the books, and maybe because of his dad, I don't know. But that's a very, very good person to bring up because and you're probably looking at him to be in the MVP race in the end of the season.
I mean, he is the American League MVP at this moment, so
probably won't change.
So I will
Derek,
move on to my couple guys here. I kind of linked these guys together because they're both on the same team, but they're both really playing a lot better than they were supposed to. First up is both for the Cincinnati Reds. First is Nick Castellanos. He is currently leading the league, hitting .361. He has 13 home runs, 36 RBIs, and he is first in doubles with 23. Currently projected for 34 home runs, 94 RBIs, and 60 doubles. By the way, his career best averages is .289, so that is 63 points above right now. 27 homers, and he did have 101 RBIs in 2017. But 29 years old, and he's last year, I believe he didn't really play very well. Neither did most of the Reds offense. But he's playing very well. And then I will also say, oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his first name? Jesse Winkler?
Yep.
Yes.
Winkler, yep.
He is currently second in the league. He is hitting .344 average, 17 home runs, which is tied for fifth in the league, 40 RBIs, currently projected for 44 home runs, 104 RBIs. And he's currently second in slugging, by the way, as well. Best home run totals, 16. He's already beat it. Best RBI total, 39 in the league. Already beat it. And that was 113 games in 2019. Phil, he's come out of nowhere. I mean, he's been a somewhat consistent home run hitter, but that was about it. But consistent, he didn't get more than 16. But those two have been amazing for the Reds.
No, I mean, when you talk about he's never had consistent playing time, and even when the season started, he was kind of in a platoon role, and then he just kind of he's just been playing out of his mind where they have no choice to play him every day. So it's finally paying off. I don't think anyone, it kind of bring that phrase up a block, but like, I mean, it's hasn't been truer for anyone but Winkler, just coming out of nowhere, so.
And then I'll kick it to you, Joe, for the pitcher. Who's already talked about Kevin Gossman for the San Francisco Giants. Currently 7-1. He has a 1.43 ERA in 13 starts, 10 of which were quality starts. He has a 10.7 Ks per 9 innings, a 0.78 WHIP. Currently projected for 18 wins, 260 strikeout or 252 strikeouts. And well, he's dominating, but unfortunately, he's not going to win at this rate. He's not going to win the Cy Young with how well Jacob deGrom is going. But his best career was 11 wins in 2017. He's dominating that right now. A 4.04 career ERA. Dominating that. And I did find a tidbit. He actually, in every season, he averaged 60% of the time he throws a fastball. It's now down to 50% of the time, and he's throwing a split finger more often. So that definitely seems to be working for him. So Joe, we mentioned Gossman, but if you briefly want to say something about him before we get moving on to the next topic.
Yeah, he found something out by the bay, didn't he? He's been really good out there, and you know, you can't laugh at any of his stats because they're pretty dominant. So I think if he continues to do what he's doing, he's going to have himself a spot in Colorado at the All-Star game this year. It's very well deserved for himself, and probably a couple other guys with him that can continue to be in first place. But he's making every time you look, he's in the box score for a good game, a great game. So bold prediction, I think he throws a no-hitter this year.
Well, I guess we'll see. On to our next our next topic here. We're going to go to biggest disappointments. Each of us wrote down a team or two in terms of biggest disappointments. I'll start us off. Mine was the Minnesota Twins. Man, they've been pretty brutal so far. They are 26-39, which is, they just recently moved up from 5th, but they're 4th in the AL Central. They are 27th in ERA, 28th in pitcher strikeouts. 2 starters they brought on. J.A. Happ has a 5.75 ERA. Schumacher has a 7.57 ERA. Those two have made up 22 starts so far. Colomé, a 5.48. Maeda is having an un-Maeda year, 5.27 ERA. However, room for positivity. They are second in home runs. They are 8th in average. Cruz is still mashing. Byron Buxton, before he got injured, was really playing very well. Finally, I believe he is back today, as is Kenta Maeda. So Barrios is pitching pretty well. Phil, they were projected for, I believe it was 87.5 wins, and they are falling very short of that. Do we think there's any chance that they make some sort of comeback here?
I think the silver lining for the Twins is they play probably the worst division in baseball. So, you know, being able to play the Tigers, Royals, and, you know, even the Indians, you know, with that offense, I think the Twins have a chance to make a rise in the standings, but that pitching really has to turn around because, you know, the starters just aren't getting it done. You know, I think, you know, like you mentioned, touched on, a lot of those guys are having really down years. But the offense is there. That's another thing there. You know, they can hit, they can mash. Yeah. You know, they're getting guys back. And, you know, I think another thing that kind of cost them in the beginning of the year was the back end of the bullpen. I think they kind of figured that out. And they took Colomé out of the 9th inning role because he cost them a lot of games early. But, yeah, I think, you know, if Nelson Cruz can kind of turn around, he's been a little slow starter, you know, so far this year, but he can turn around. And as you mentioned, you know, getting Buxton back is going to be a really big addition for that team. So I think they can turn it around, but yeah, it's been a really tough slog for them so far this season. So,
Phil, you want to jump to your most disappointing team?
Yeah, so I went with the Arizona Diamondbacks. You know, I don't think anyone expected them to be a playoff contender or anything like that, but I don't think anyone saw a worse team in baseball bad from this roster. Some of it's injury related. You know, when you've only had a handful of starts from Zach Gallen, you know that your ace there. You know, it's tough. You know, when Ketel Marte has to miss a month because of a pretty bad hamstring injury, you know, really takes a lot of the pack out of the lineup. But, you know, 20-46, they've lost 10 straight as of our recording. You know, we're recording this on Monday night, you know, 10 straight losses. Second worst run differential in baseball, right behind the Pittsburgh Pirates. And which is surprising because they do have guys in that lineup. They definitely have guys that are playing well this year. You know, Pavin Smith's come out, you know, he was a no-name before the season. Now he's really good. Tim LaCastro when he's filling in. You know, some other guys too that are just having really good season. You know, Ketel Marte's, you know, if he played enough games, he would be leading the league in average, you know. But I think, you know, after all that, I think the most impressive stat in baseball is the last time they won a road game. I mean, this team cannot win on the road. I think the last time they won a game on the road was in April when Madison Bumgarner threw his no-hitter. April 5th, and then 19 straight losses. So, yeah, it's just when you have 3/5 of your rotation with an ERA over 5, Mad Bum, looked like he was turning around for 4 starts now, but now he's back to being kind of the washed up version of him. And I think I think everyone kind of saw them maybe as like the 3rd best team in that division, right behind the Dodgers and Padres, but no one saw them being this bad. How about how are your takes on the D-backs?
Phil, I thought they'd be better than the Giants.
I know.
Hot take.
Complete opposite of the spectrum right there.
Right, yeah, it's making my life not so fun right now. Peralta and those guys, I mean, I heard they might even try to trade Peralta because teams are interested in him, but maybe he needs to get out of Arizona. I don't know. Marte's a good player. I think they thought Escobar was going to be a better player, and the pitching, like you said, hasn't really held up, but they're really like a non-talking point right now. They're just kind of a mess.
Escobar might actually be one of the few positive points. He does have 15 home runs, 43 RBIs. He might be one guy who's, unfortunately for the Diamondbacks, they were probably a team that if they started off hot, fantastic, then they can keep the band together. But if they started off slow, a lot of their players are probably going to go, and they may finish with one of the worst records in the league. So I don't really see a positive spin there as Phil did for the Twins. But Joe, finish us off with your biggest disappointments team wise.
Well, I got 2, but I'm only going to elaborate on one. So I put Phil's favorite teams down. I put the Yankees and the Braves.
I figured you did that on purpose. So.
I would never do that to you, Phil. You're one of my favorite people that have come on the show. Now, listen, Atlanta, I was scared of Atlanta to start the season. I mean, they're the defending, National League East champs. They were absolutely, they didn't do anything. I mean, the rotation was going to depend on the Soroka. He hasn't pitched. Freed got off to a bad start. He'll probably, I'm sure, turn it around. But you know what, guys? There's players in this lineup that aren't producing. And you got to throw Freeman in there. I mean, he has some home runs, I know. But his average he's like 237, I think it is, or about 240. I mean, and the loss of Ozuna is going to hurt. I get it. Their bullpen doesn't scare me. They have some good young arms, but their bullpen doesn't scare me. They're just kind of an average team, and it's kind of weird because this is a team that was one step away from the World Series. Am I reading it wrong, or
they've had a lot of injuries. So I mean, a lot of guys. I think they expected Soroka back in May or June. Now he's done for the year. I mean, losing Yanoa for that stupid injury, when he punched the bench or punched the wall.
Yes.
I mean, he was going to fill in that spot. Charlie Morton hasn't been pitching that well. They brought in Drew Smiley thinking he could be something, but he just hasn't panned out. And Ian Anderson's been decent, but not the guy that pitched in the playoffs last year. And then the pitching depth that they thought they had, Kyle Wright, Bryce Wilson, I mean, they're pitching in AAA right now. So, I mean,
they're not getting help.
But I will say they do have a lot of injuries that they're trying to overcome. They haven't really had a full lineup. I mean, the Ozuna thing, I mean, yeah, but I mean, he's done for probably ever. And then, but yeah, like Swanson hasn't been producing. Freeman has a low average, but then again, he doesn't this year.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I think. But
do you see a comeback, Phil, or are they kind of destined to be a 500 team?
I think it depends on the pitching. I think if their pitching can kind of turn around, they can get better things. I think the offense is clicking. I mean, Acuna is. He's just a superstar. Yeah. But I think Austin Riley having the season he's doing is helping them stay, in the mix. Mm-hmm. No one really, with the other guys producing, not producing, having Austin Riley do what he's doing is really helping. So once the other guys can pick it up and have the other guys, they all mesh together. I think I can see a little turnaround there. So.
And the young catcher, William Contreras, looks pretty good. I saw him play in Philly that weekend. And
yeah,
they were there.
He was really good last year. He was off to a decent start. He's done for a couple months with that broken finger. So
they're the Braves, though. I don't count them out. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I have a lot of respect for Atlanta. I'm not going to count them out.
Yeah.
Well, so we will move on here to our most disappointing players. Joe, I mean, we've talked about both of these guys, but go ahead and let us know your disappointing players.
Sure. I put Freeman on the list just because you see the guy that won the MVP last year hitting I think it was like 315, 320. It's definitely a step down, but again, there's a whole half of the season left, so it doesn't mean he can't. And he's actually one of my favorite players in the game. I love the way Freeman plays. I love his personality. I love all about him. I just do. I love Freddie Freeman. But again, when he's with playing the Phils, I swear it. But I do like him as a player. Francisco Lindor has really disappointed, and I think Mets fans are wondering where their money went. This year, he's got a long contract, so he's got time to make up. But just seeing that, like, he only has 7 doubles, 6 home runs, 26 walks, like hitting 215. It's kind of like, really, but a change of scenery in a big way, going to a big city from Cleveland, like Phil said, the worst division in baseball. Usually, you're in the limelight right away. You're playing games in Philadelphia, Atlanta, New York, even Washington. So you're facing a lot of great pitchers too. So I do look at him and he needs to have bounce back. And another guy I enjoy watch play. So I'm not trying to hate on these guys. I'm just trying to be honest with you guys and our audience, to be truthful.
Yeah, I think Lindor's definitely having. He was batting under 200 up until a couple weeks ago. So I think there were some signs that he was kind of on the downward trend when he was kind of out the door in Cleveland. But I don't think anyone expected this type of drop off, especially in year one of that massive contract. So, but I think he has been playing a little bit better since the weather's gotten warmer. I think he might be good in the second half of the season, especially once the Mets lineup gets healthy around him too. So,
you wonder if he's trying to take on too much with a lot of these guys injured and he's feeling the pressure. I mean, he's only human, right? If you get this big contract, you're going to be thinking, well, I better hit, or especially in New York, they're going to kill me. So.
Yeah,
he's got so much to his game, though. He's got a good arm. He can play defense. He steals bases. He hits. You don't have to do everything. They said that on broadcast. Just play your game, Francisco. Just play your game, and he'll get it. It's gonna hit him. It's just he does need some guys back to make him feel more comfortable.
Unfortunately, a lot of people just look at the offensive stats and they're like, "Oh, he's playing like crap for us." They don't see if he's playing well defensively and stuff like that. But
yeah.
Phil, do you want to jump into yours?
Yeah, so I went with a pitcher. I think I don't think there's been many starters that have been having as bad of a season as Luis Castillo is. I mean, this guy, he had 2-3 straight seasons coming into 2021 where he was among the top 10 pitchers in the National League. He was among the top 15 pitchers in baseball, really. And then this year, I think, I don't know what's happened, but he is just not the same guy. He's got an ERA right in the mid-6s, which is incredible given the type of talent he is. And it's June 14th when we're recording this. I mean, a starter with a whip over 1.5 is just unheard of, really. Opponents are batting like 280, almost 300 against him, 287, 2-9. He's not really striking out. I think his problem is probably, he loves his changeup. He's throwing it too often, but hitters are just laying off of it this year. They're not swinging at it. They're not doing anything about it. But he hasn't made the adjustment either to like change it up. No pun intended there, but but yeah, I think Luis Castillo. I mean, Derek, you had him in fantasy the last couple of years. I mean,
I did.
I mean, you knew how good. Yeah, but you knew you may have saw this coming if you traded him, but I don't think you saw this bad of a season though.
No. He was I'm trying to bring up the stats here. He was, as you said, one of the best pitchers for a long time. Well, not a long time. That's an exaggeration.
Yeah, but a couple seasons though.
2019, 15-8 with a 3.4 ERA.
Yeah.
2020 last year, he had 4 wins with a 3.21 ERA. He had a 3.12 in 2017. He's been a decent pitcher. I'd have to think he figures a little something out here, but I wonder. Sonny Gray hasn't been around much, so again, I wonder if that's in his head. Like, when I go out there, I need to win some games for this team. And
Guys,
he's just not doing it.
Guys, do you think he's missing his pitching coach that's now in Philly, Caleb Cotham, who they say is really good with the pitchers?
Doesn't
Wonder.
help.
Yeah. He's used to him, right? Yeah. It's interesting.
Could be.
Well, and I'll finish it off here. I have 2 lesser name guys here, but I still wrote them down because I believe they're having some very bad seasons. First one is Jorge Solaire for the Kansas City Royals. Currently, Solaire is hitting 178. On-base percentage is 270, which most people have a batting average better than that. 6 home runs, 27 RBIs, which is tied for 96th in the league, which not what you want out of a middle of the order guy. Currently projected for 16 home runs and 71 RBIs, but that's if he plays as many games as he current has been, which at this rate will not. Phil, in 2019, Solaire hit 265, had 48 home runs and 117 RBIs. That was his coming out party, and all of a sudden, poof, there it goes.
He's statistically, he is. I think I read he is like the worst starting outfielder in baseball, which is incredible because, for someone playing that much, that he's in the lineup basically every day. They haven't really benched him yet.
They should,
and they're not going to now because Benintendi just got hurt. So, but yeah, Solaire. I mean, everyone thought after that 2019 season, like that's the guy that I think because he was coming up in the Cubs system. I think that's the guy. That's the guy people thought they were going to get. Tremendous power, not much else, but
from Cuba, right?
Yeah, I believe so. And then, but yeah, I mean, when you can mash that well, I mean, yeah, but he's not even hitting home runs. He's not even hitting home runs now. So it's surprising because the rest of the Royals lineup has been really, really solid this year. He's just like the black hole in it, though.
Yeah. And when he's not in the outfield, he's been a DH, but we'll see. The DH is supposed to hit for you. He's not supposed to hit 178. The second name I have here, Jesus Luzardo, for a couple of years now has been one of the big name prospects out in Oakland. Currently, he is 2-3 with a 6.14 ERA. He is actually now in the bullpen. He did get injured, but then he just came back and they left him in the bullpen. But 1.58 WHIP. He is 23 years old. His minors numbers were he was 14-7 with a 2.51 ERA. A very well-regarded prospect. Joe, we could start with you, but he really has not come through so far this year, and the rest of the A's rotation has been pretty decent, at least.
Well, you said it, Darren. You get a guy like Cole Irvin and come over, and he pitches well, and he wasn't anybody in the Phillies organization. Sometimes the guy needs to change the scenery, but Luzardo's been really good for Oakland over the past couple of years. But when you have an ERA over 6 and only striking out 40 guys, you're a lefty, right? He's definitely lefty. Of what I think he's a lefty.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to double check. But yeah, what did we say earlier? If you have a 1.58 WHIP, that's high. That's really high. So, Luzardo not the guy I want to give the ball to right now. Phil, thoughts on Jesus?
Yeah, I think I mean it's tough. It was tough to see him like transition to the bullpen. I know why they did it, just to limit his innings. They might stretch him out later in the year. Maybe that's just because with 2020 being so short of a season, they don't want to tax that arm, that prized arm. But yeah, even then, he's still not really pitching that great. So, I don't know. He's just one of those guys that, the highly touted A's pitching prospects that just haven't been panning out. Him, AJ Puck, a couple other guys. So, but yeah.
So, and our second to last topic here, it's going to be real quick here, guys. You're going to say your team, give us 1 or 2 reasons why, and we'll move on to the next one. One team that is headed for a big drop or a big rise in the standings, maybe over past the All-Star break or whatever. The one I went with, now this is kind of goes against what Joe said earlier about his Cubbies, but and this may seem weird. I said the Milwaukee Brewers. They're already tied for first, but they're 38-27. 27 games left until the All-Star break. 14 of which are versus the 3 worst teams in the NL. I believe it's the Rockies, the Diamondbacks, and the Pirates. 7 of which are versus the Reds, who are 500 basically. And 27 or 21 of those 27 games are against bottom 7 ERA teams. So whereas the Cubs, they have only, of their 26 games till the All-Star break, only 6 are versus teams under 500. 14 are with teams with top 8 ERA. I believe they're currently tied. I believe the Brewers are going to be up 10 games in the division by the All-Star break. I think they go, Chicago goes south, Milwaukee goes completely north, and they pull away with it, I think. Phil? What do you got?
I think, it really comes down to pitching. They have Corbin Burns, who's been incredible this year. He's shown those flashes last year, but this year, when he had that walk, no walk streak to start the year. The bullpen's been pretty good. When you have Devin Williams and Josh Hader in the back of the bullpen, that's his best 1-2 punch you're going to get. And then, as long as Yelich can stay healthy, it looks like his back hasn't flared up as recently as it did in the earlier parts of the season. I kind of like that pick. I could see the Brewers especially staying around, especially if the Cardinals are going to be so-so. They're dealing with some injuries too, but they're not as good as I think people thought they were going to be. But I could see the Brewers sticking around in first place. So.
Go ahead, Phil. Give us your team.
So Joe didn't talk about them, but he had them listed as a disappointing team. I didn't want to be a homer, but I was looking through the standings and teams and stuff, to see which team might have a better second half, and I'm going to go with my Yankees. I think a big part of the reason why they're a 500 team is because of health. You could say that it's kind of deja vu because every single season you can say that about the Yankees. Like their health is always an issue. I don't think they've had you can probably count on 2 hands how many times they've had a full lineup this year. It hasn't been that often. Luke Voigt really is a catalyst of that offense. He's only played maybe 2 weeks total, if that, but he's on the mend. He should be back soon. Stanton Judge has missed time, just to name some other dudes, Aaron Hicks missing. He was pretty bad. He was on Solaire level as bad before he got hurt. And then, look at the pitching. Kluber looked like he was figuring it out, but but then he goes down for 2-3 months. Garrett Cole's been pretty good. Obviously he's a stud, but I think, on paper, that's not a 500 team. So I think, if they can get healthy, Severino had a setback, but if he can come back full health in about a month or so, that's a big push to the pitching. And I think, but the key is also going to be, Jameson Taillon. If he can figure it out, he's been pretty terrible so far, but they have some pitching depth that might come around, but I just don't think they're a 500 team. I think they should be a little better, but it's also an uphill climb because I don't think they're going to catch the Rays. The Red Sox are playing pretty well, and then they have also Toronto ahead of them, but I just don't think they're this level of
Okay. So, Joe, let us know your last team here, and we'll get to our last topic.
Well, I have the Washington Nationals because, unfortunately, I just think they're going to keep going downward. Their lineup is so average. They have Turner and Soto. That's all they really have. Yeah, Schwarber and Bell can hit home runs, but it's just not consistent enough. I worry about I can't say worry about Scherzer now because he's having a good year. He might not even end up being a National. I've been reading things about the Yankees could be interested in him to go with Garrett Cole, which would be a heck of a one too. So look for that, and I think Strasburg needs to stay healthy, and I just don't think that's going to happen. So I think the Nationals keep on, and they're in a division where the Mets, Phillies, and Braves have to play well. So they're not going to be in it. So I would say they're going to keep going down. In fact, I'll say by All-Star break, they're back like at least 18, 19 games by then.
What does that say about you, Joe, that you went with a team that's going to go down and we went positive?
I know. I went negative in this landscape right now.
Anyway, so we will go to our final topic here, and we're briefly going to talk about it's kind of been in the news recently about the foreign substance issues that MLB is currently facing. I'm going to read a quick quote here, and then I'll kick it to the guys for their thoughts from David Waldstein of the New York Times. Since the season began in April, Major League Baseball's umpires and league officials have been collecting baseballs by the thousands. Balls from games are inspected, with the most suspicious specimens being sent to an independent laboratory for analysis. A forensic investigation found that a majority of those balls had some kind of illegal foreign substance, presumably applied through sleight of hand by the pitcher on the mound, with tests still being done to determine exactly what is placed on them. The purpose of the substance is fairly clear: to help pitchers make the baseball curve, dip, and hop more than it usually would. Guys, it's been in the news for a bit now. It was steroids, then it was sign stealing, now it's foreign substances on baseballs. Phil, what is your brief thoughts about what's happening and maybe what needs to be done?
I think it's interesting to see the hitters speak out on it as much as they have. Usually players are supposed to be, it's a brotherhood. So it's like they don't really call them out. But, when you have Trout, Donaldson, guys like top level guys speaking out on how bad, or how wrong this kind of is. It's interesting to get their take on it. When they're using stuff that is really only supposed to be for like the world, like they're using Spider Tack, which is used in like, remember the world's strongest men competition, when they're that was used on like the boulder competition, when they had to pick up the big rock boulders. I mean, not to throw a baseball. So it's when you're seeing baseballs move like wiffle balls, like that's not natural. Like they shouldn't be moving that much. So I mean, it's cool to watch it pitch, but hitting's never been as hard as it is now, and it's because of this. So and it's tough to, and it's interesting too, because like the way I've heard is like I guess the Spider Tack is like almost undetectable. So it's just they can collect all these big baseballs, but can they really detect it though? So it's just interesting. I think. Yeah, Joe, how about you? What do you think?
Well, you're right, Phil, about like hearing the hitters come out. I know JT Realmuto, Philly's catcher, who's caught a lot of baseballs in his time now, has said, this has got to stop. We got to figure this out. I'll tell you right now, I think the way to stop it, and I don't know if you suspend guys for doing it or who are doing it when they get to the bottom of it, but there's got to be something done. I mean, even if it's a year suspension, they can't pitch without pay. You got to come down on these guys because it's not fair to the hitters. It's almost like the pine tar thing back in the day, right? If they use pine tar, you're gonna have an advantage if it goes higher than it should.
Yeah. think suspending might be a little too strong for that. But I think if they can get it out of the game, and then just maybe I've heard suggestions maybe just create a substance, that you can just give pitchers that, hey, as long as you're using this, it's fine.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
A lot of people use like suntan lotion and pine tar, like that combination that works, but
rosin.
Yeah, that's what it is. Sorry. And then but yeah, suspended, especially for a year or so, because that, I mean, even if it's egregious or whatever, I don't think it's that level of bad. But I think it's definitely. I mean, we've already seen it's an increasing
definitely.
Issue, so.
Now, the MLB did say that they're going to be issuing new guidelines and protocols in the coming days that may even come out later tonight, for all we know, with what their plan is moving forward with how it should be handled. Phil kind of touched on it. Lowest batting average, 237 by the league right now. Lowest since 1968. We've seen the 6 no-hitters, 6.5 with the 7-inning no-hitter for Madison Bumgarner. But looking at so there have been 4 examples in the minor leagues. They've suspended those guys 10 games for evidence of using a foreign substance. So we wonder if they go with that 10 game mark or whatnot. From what I've heard is they're probably going to be under the umpire's discretion. If they think something shady's going on, they're going to go out there. I can't imagine how awkward it is, like, because they're talking about how it's inside their glove, but it's also like inside their pant buckle, and like, how do you go about doing that? But I'll read one more quote quick. According to Lloyd Smith, who is a professor of mechanical engineering at Washington State University and the director of Sports Science Lab, the more spin on a straight fastball, the longer it defies gravity. If the spin rate goes up 10%, it equals 3/4 of an inch more movement. Older methods, as Joe was hinting at, could add 150 RPMs to a pitcher's spin rate, but the newer substances can add 400 to 500 RPMs, which could mean a 25% increase to a typical pitch, enough to push the ball an extra couple of inches, making it appear to hop over bats. So I don't know what we want to see, but I think we can all agree that the MLB has to crack down on this. They've had a couple situations in the past where they didn't really crack down where they should have been. And Phil, I don't know what you want to see them do. We're just hinting on it. Do we want to see suspensions if they're caught doing it? But
I think pitchers need something, because nowadays not a lot of them know how to pitch. They just throw hard. So I think they need something that can kind of help them control it. So that's why I don't want to see anyone suspended, at least not yet, unless, because it's but I think I kind of mentioned what I would like to see. As long as if the MLB can create something that the players sign off on, I think that would probably be the right move. So, because the pitchers need something, they just do. They need something, because the baseballs, I think they've changed the I've heard that, like, reading up on it and like just listening to like MLB pitchers, they say the ball is slicker now, so like they need something to help them control it. So as long as they can, so they need something. But when it's making them, when you're seeing spin rates as high as they are, I mean, obviously it's an issue. So,
Joe, what are your final thoughts?
I feel like the thing is, like, I remember pitching when I was young, and I always took the dirt and rubbed it on the ball. I think gone are those days, right? That can't be just rubbing dirt on the ball. It can only go so far. But it's just funny thinking about that way. Phil's right, though, and Derek, you're right, too. There's got to be a way to make this go away, whether it's create something that they can use, have them use the rosin every inning, whatever they can do. to make the pitchers feel like they have more control. We don't want to keep seeing guys get in the head. I was at the Phillies game last weekend where Velasquez hit the guy in the face. Like, that's the second one now between Phillies, Nationals, Cubs, or Cardinals, Phillies. Same thing with Harper. We don't want to see that either. So there is something they can do, though, to make it better, probably.
I don't want to see it turn into a witch hunt where like every inning a manager is accusing a pitcher of you might be doing something shady out there. And we got to take the break for him to come out and ultimately not find anything. I don't want that. So I actually do want some suspensions right away, whether it's 10 games like they do in the minor leagues or whatever, just something to keep them from continuously doing it so we don't have it as a problem for years to come. But
Manfred's got to get on his act.
Absolutely. Well, that'll do it for this episode. What's happening in baseball? And then we just tackled some of the foreign substance issue. Keep on top of that. Some news may come out of the protocols and guidelines that MLB comes out with. But Phil, once again, we appreciate you coming on to talk some baseball with us. On episode 51 now. I think that's actually you said third. Isn't this your fourth? It's not his fourth. Yeah, I think it's his fourth.
Fourth. Maybe it is.
Yeah, we had a couple hot stoves and then a preview.
Yeah, maybe it is. But yeah, I've always I enjoy coming on, talking to baseball and sports with you guys. So yeah, I'm always happy to come on. So
thanks for coming on, Phil.
Joseph, final thoughts from you.
Yeah, just baseball is, almost at the midpoint. And we talk about it a lot that, there's a lot of interesting things happening in the game this year, whether it's foreign substance or no hitters or whatever, if you will.
Or hitters not hitting.
Have a wild, right. We might have a wild second. Right. We might have a wild second half, though. I think it's going to be a pretty good second half of the season. So, we're getting into, like we said, we're in mid-June now. So, baseball is definitely right at its peak. And, I'm excited for the season. Definitely excited to cover more baseball on our show. And we got some more things also going on. So that's good, too. But as always, it was a fun show today with you guys.
Don't forget, everyone, you know the drill. You feel free to follow us on YouTube and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a like. It very much helps us out. We're available on all podcast platforms as well as our Facebook group, on Twitter, and you can email us timeoutwithderekandjoe@gmail.com. Let us know in the comments, what do you think about the foreign substance issue, and what do you want Major League Baseball to ultimately end up doing with it? Do you want to see suspensions, whatnot? Let us know in the comments. And let us know your thoughts. As always, everyone, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Stay safe. Take care.